to ask you, what did you think of the sound quality and the picture arrangement here? Any comments? Excuse me, if you liked the sound and the picture displays, good, please give a huge round of applause. Okay, ये जो आपने अपलॉज दी है ये जाती है ऑडियो विजुअल लिंक को, जो सारे कोलीग्स वहाँ बैठे हुए. Great job, great coverage, great microphones, great sound system. So very well done. Congratulations. One more round of applause, because as we applaud for people, we become ready to do things. Also, I want to I'm just post-lunch session. I'm just kind of warming up so that we could start with a lot of enthusiasm. इस दुनिया में क्यों है? Why are we in this world? मतलब कहते हैं ना, विजन होना चाहिए, मिशन होना चाहिए, कोई स्ट्रैटेजीज होनी चाहिए. तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन तो ये है कि why are we here? मैं इस दुनिया में क्या कर रहा हूँ? I'll come back to this. But keep this in mind, keep thinking, why are we here? I would want to talk about it. We have 4 more minutes and we'll start exactly at 2 o'clock. So I will just flirt with you some more. I want you to think, Ali and your people on your table, can I have your attention? Yes. Thank you. I want all of you to think, to imagine and think. Think of 5 most important people in your life. Think of 5 names, most important people in your life. Don't tell anybody. Please don't tell anybody. Not even me. But just think about these 4 most important people in your life. ठीक है, सोच लिया? मतलब ये सुबह हमने शुरू किया था तो मैंने सवाल किया था, पता नहीं सलाम किया था कि क्या पूछा था, आवाज़ आ रही है कि नहीं, कोई नहीं बोला था. ठीक है भैया, बैक एक इतना लोग तकरीरें कर गए हैं, एनकरेज कर गए हैं, आपने कहा भी आई एम वंडरफुल, उसके बावजूद भी खामोश हो गए सारे. सोच लिए नाम? अच्छा, कुछ लोगों ने सोच ली. थैंक यू. ओके, लिसन, वी आर हियर टू पार्टिसिपेट in life, and participate means talk also. And 5 most important people in your life, the 5 most important people in your life, you have thought about it. ठीक है? And now put your right hand on your heart, and I think that your heart is somewhere a little bit to the left of the center of your chest. अगर सबका वही है, ठीक है? And say, how are you treating these 5 people? Ask yourself, how are you treating these 5 people? When did you appreciate them? And when you were angry with them last time? ठीक है? Problem है ना? And I can tell you, none of these 5 people have to do anything with your workplace. And if these 5 most important people in my life are not being treated well by me, if I never tell them how important you are for me, how significant you are for me, how much I love you, how much my life would be incomplete without you, there's no way in hell we are going to treat our employees in any better than them. So think about it. And during the next intervention, I have 1 more minute. Next intervention, I'll talk about why are we here. So we started talking about. So now please, for this upcoming session, which is the 3rd session, and it is about innovation, education, and HR strategy. This session would be moderated by Malik Ahmed Jalal, CEO, Aman Foundation. Please put your hands together and welcome Malik Ahmed Jalal. Ahmed, would you invite your panelists or do you want me to invite them? I'll invite them. Okay, thank you. आप ऊपर आ जाएं. और मलिक अहमद जलाल साहब के लिए भरपूर तालियां बजाएं ताकि उनको पता अच्छा देखिए, मैं आपको एक और बात भी ज़िंदगी में बताता हूँ। आप सारे लोग लीडर्स बैठे हुए, वी ओनली गेट व्हाट वी गिव इन लाइफ, मेरा ख्याल है, ठीक है। मतलब अपना ख्याल जारी कर देना चाहिए, क्योंकि गैब का इल्म नहीं है, ना ही किसी के पास एब्सोल्यूट इल्म है। सो वी ओनली गेट व्हाट वी गिव। इफ वी डोंट हैव द कैपेसिटी टू गिव, I can assure you, you will get very little. You will still get something because there are good people around who want to give. But if we don't invest, we don't get any returns. So one thing that we are here to give is appreciation. An appreciation we can give by at least clapping for somebody to begin with. So please, a round of applause for yourself and for the wonderful moderator that we have here. Thank you very much. You are a giving people. Sajid Aslam, head of ACCA Pakistan. Yeah, beautiful. Let's put our hand together. Welcome, sir. Dr. Sadia Nadeem, Associate Professor, FAST School of Management, and she specially traveled from Islamabad to be here. Welcome, Sadia. Asghar Jamil, Chief Human Resource Officer, JAZ, formerly Mobile Link. Ahmed Noman Anis, my colleague and my friend, from Head of Learning and Core Development. Oh, Bank Al Falah Limited. Welcome, Ahmed. Welcome.
Yeah.
And we have Syed Jamshed Ahmed, COO, Pharma Evo Pakistan Limited. Welcome, sir.
Yeah.
And we have little less than 1 hour.
Really?
And over to you, Malik Jalal.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Again, a one round of applause for all the panelists.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Ahmed Jalal, CEO of Aman Foundation, which is a large foundation social enterprise working in healthcare and education.
Forgive me. I have missed out on one name, and that is also my good friend, and that is none other than Syed Mazhar Hussain, Chief Human Resource Officer, PTCL. Please, special round of applause for him. And I don't know why I have missed. I also waved at him and said welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
So बहुत शुक्रिया आपने टाइम दिया आने का. Nutshell and Asfar, of course, setting up a wonderful opportunity for all of us to engage in this dialogue about HR. You know, अगर मैं पाकिस्तान को देखता हूँ, पाकिस्तान के challenges देखता हूँ, तो I think main जो पाकिस्तान का जो challenge which is there is is an HR related challenge, is human capability development. It's a human capability advancement का challenge है, और culture कि how do we get the right values, the right value system. You know, Max भाई ने बड़ी interesting बात की कि जब एक giving is receiving, ये एक दुनिया का एक rule है. If you look at the most successful people in the world, they always think in that sense कि मैं जितना दूंगा उतना मैं receive करूंगा. हमारे यहाँ it's not that common to think like that. Most of the people is all about how can I get the most out of the system, how can I maximize from it, rather than the other way around. And I think a good HR system, a good organization is one, and a good nation is one that creates a culture, that creates a system, that creates a level of transparency, जहाँ पे everyone is encouraged, everyone is motivated to contribute to the furtherment of themselves, the organizations, the community, as well as the country. And I think that is the big challenge. I think ये challenge हम as a national level पे पाकिस्तान में देखते हैं, but I think as a micro level, all of the organizations that we have here have the same challenge. How do we motivate our workforce? How do we align them in an age of digital revolution to get the best out of them, to motivate them to feel ownership of their jobs, to feel ownership of their organization, to feel ownership of their country? I think that is a big challenge, and I think, you know, Pakistan mein hum, if we want to progress towards Pakistan which is more capable, I think all of these organizations who are here, all of the people, all of the organizations that you represent, because aap hi se Pakistan ban raha hai, all these organizations have to develop much better HR systems so that that translates across the whole of the country. So we are very pleased to have a very esteemed panel of guests who are top-class HR professionals, not only from Pakistan. I think most of us, they have international global presence. We have amongst us, people who run very big organizations, but who have worked in Europe, in Middle East, researched in London and other places. So they not only know what works in Pakistan, but also how to benchmark Pakistan versus the rest of the world, and how can we improve ourselves. So I think we'll look forward to a very engaging conversation. The topic of discussion at the moment is innovation, HR, and education and HR strategy. And I think before I open it up for the comments of our honorable panelists, I have certain stats that I want to share with you. Because you're all HR professionals, and so just to lay out the landscape that we are going to explore with the esteemed panel. The challenge that we face in Pakistan in that sense is, in terms of human development index, we are 147 out of 188. So in terms of HR development, we're in the top, we're in the bottom 22 percentile. Then another very important element, which is women participation, gender equity, because no country can progress when 51% of the population is left behind or is excluded, either culturally, intentionally, unintentionally. आप countries progress नहीं कर सकते. उसमें we are 121 out of 155. In that sense, we are in the bottom 22%. So we are faring somewhere within the sub-Saharan Africa. So that is one stat. The other stat is, I want to go towards the age of disruption that we are facing, the change that we are facing. The organizations need to be very nimble. HR needs to be very nimble, because the way the world is changing, technology is changing everything. इस वक्त जो दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी 6 कंपनीज हैं, उनमें से जो 5 कंपनीज ऐसी हैं जो आज से 20 साल पहले एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती थी. They may be Facebook, Amazon, and companies like that. They're all technology companies. So only one company is there in the top 6, which is an oil and gas company. Other than that, all of them are technology. So technology is really creating a lot of value. It's creating a lot of growth. Out of these 5 companies, जो कि मैंने नाम दिया था, इनकी median age of their employees. Can anyone guess what is the median age of Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amazon? इनका क्या median age होगा इनके employees का? Anyone has a guess on it? How much? Less than around 30, 31 years old. So it's only 31 years old. The combined market cap of these companies is $2.5 trillion, 31 years old, median age, and less than 2 years with the firm. So that the whole concept of working for life with a company doesn't exist as far as these most successful companies are concerned. And these are, if you're 31, you're in a category called the millennials. The millennials are behave, act very differently from me and you and a lot of more older people. So in a way, the world is being driven by a younger generation of people for whom we don't have, the systems are not built for them. There's very little understanding of that. So that means the HR systems need to change. The other thing is the pace of change, the pace of disruption. S&P 500 is a global ranking of the world's largest companies, 500 largest companies. आज से कोई 1960, which is not long ago, some of people over here were born at that time, a median age of a company's life on S&P was 60 years. So once you got in and you were in the club of the big boys or big players, you're pretty much going to be there for at least 60 years. Guess how much is it now at this moment? एक average median life of a company on S&P कितनी है इस वक्त? Any guesses? कितना? 15 years, not very far, 18 years. So literally when you've come in and as you have settled in, you get pushed out. Such is the rapid change that organizations are facing over here. So human capital, talent management systems need to change as a result of that. And I think now we're going to talk about innovation, education, HR strategies. How do HR systems, which were in essence built for the industrial age, command and control systems, where the power was with the employer, not with an employee. Now that whole dynamic has changed. Now the power, the brand is with an employee and less with an employer. I'm not saying it's completely gone the other way, but a lot more power to the employee. How do HR systems and how do HR strategy and education evolve as a result of that? So I think these are the very interesting times, maybe too disruptive, too difficult, too challenging times for us to live in, but I think if we have to navigate this well, I think HR departments, people like yourself, have to think outside the box, be more innovative and take more initiative to be able to navigate that. But thanks to Nutshell, we have a panel who will help us think through some of these questions and the challenges that we face. So I then now turn around to my panel and I'll ask them for their first initial comments about this topic for about 4 to 5 minutes. Mr. Sayyid Mazhar Hussain Saab, if you can comment. I mean, you're a very interesting organization which has a foreign ownership, but it has a public sector history. So I think in that sense, it would be very interesting for people to learn from the experience of PTCL.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy that first Max, he forgot me and then you forgot. And in this way, I got 2 times more claps as compared to others. As such, you are right that in this age of change, the maximum requirement for the organizations to exist is to develop the human capital of the country, of the organizations. If we see just 20 years back, there was no requirement of social media. Even social media was not there. And the people were working, of course, haphazardly, and those systems were, of course, they were successful at that time. But now with the change of technology, with the change of operations, with the change in everything, of course in HR, maximum need, the most I think important area where change is required is the human capital. So in PTCL especially, we have gone through a big change in last 8-10 years, because after privatization, of course, there are certain requirements of the law, as well as the people. Of course, this company had 64,000 people. Now it has 16,000. But as such, those people, we can say that these are with traditional mindset. And after that, it was required that the mindset should be changed. Now, it is not a science that just you put something into the minds of the people. So what we have done is that we gathered the people from outside as well as we trained the people. Now in the digital world, you cannot do anything without using the platforms, without using social media. So the first thing which we have done, and that is of course the beauty of the digital age, that we implemented the success factor in our organization. And success factor, you know that this is the latest HCM module of the world. It is introduced by SAP, and we introduced that. And that brought a big change in our organization, because all human capital cycle that is covered in the success factor. And today we are doing everything on the system. And the people, of course, the old people, they are now bringing the change in their mindset and attitudes, and we are working on them. And side by side, what we have done is that we are bringing the people from outside. Very recently, 3 months back, we brought another scheme where we relieved around 2,000 employees. Now with 2000 employees, we hired around 800 people. So question was that why PTCL is on one side paying huge sums to the employees and on other side hiring from the market? Because here we have to create a balance between the generations. We have the generation X people, now we have to induct the generation Y people, millennials. And every year we are taking 500 around people, fresh university graduates, engineers. So this combination of the cultures, that is bringing a positive incremental change in the business of PTCL. So this is the main step which we have taken, in addition to the introduction of digital platforms. One of the big requirement of today's age is openness and engagement. So in openness, again, because we are discussing the digital platforms, we have gone to Facebook. This is the other difference. I would say that just 5 years back, we were discouraging the people to use Facebook at workplace, because everybody was thinking that this is a wastage of time for them, because the people are working on the Facebook and then of course their time, work is suffered. But now world is going on other direction, and now PTCL, organization like PTCL, we have implemented Facebook at work, and this has brought a huge openness in the organization. And within around 1 year, we are feeling that this organization is changed. Now everyone is communicating directly with the management. So these are the fruit of the digital age, and and change in the scenario of mindset in the organizations. Before it was, everything was confidential, it was hidden. Now everything is open. A customer representative officer, he can directly talk to the president anytime, and president is responding. CXOs are responding. So this openness in the culture, this is the requirement of millennials, and I hope that as we will grow further, of course, this openness and the engagement will become more important in all organizations.
ये तो very interesting baat, and I think the transition that you're talking about, a generational, it reflects in the practices of PTCL. And I think what you talked about, retaining the experience of the older generation while bringing the energy, the idea, the enthusiasm of the younger, is how you bring about the right balance of it, because otherwise things can go out of balance as well if you bring about change too quickly.
You have to be flexible in everything. In this age, if we just stick to the old practices, old people, everything old, of course we cannot exist.
Yeah.
And we have seen that huge number of organizations which were top ranking organizations in the world, now they are not a non-existence. So this is the requirement of the age, that we have to bring the change. And in the organizations like our organization, of course the balance is required. So if there is another way, that okay, all youngsters we bring, but I was just reading a survey where they mentioned that the millennials, they are not very good team players, whereas in the generation X people, they are better team players. Likewise, the management skills, when they are on the top levels, those skills are still lacking in the millennials. Whereas in generation X, these skills are very much mature age. Now, again, this requires a balance, because if leadership skills and the management skills, they have to, we have to develop for the millennials, we have to give the guidance, mentorship from the management.
Sure.
Whereas these people, they are flexible. In flexibility and adaptability, the millennials are on a very high proportion as compared to the generation X. So these things are, so this requires the balance in everything. So work-life balance, even all the research shows that today The young generation, they require a balance of work and their personal life. So that is required. So I tell you that the flexibility in timings, flexibility at workplace, that now it is not essential that you have to work from one desk. Of course, you can go anywhere. Likewise, you are working from the home. And then the flexible timings. Nobody could think just 10 years back that in the organization, the big organizations where everyone was focusing on the time management, the age will come where there is a flexibility of the times. Today, you will see in most of the organizations.
That's correct. So, Mr. Jamshed Saab, what are your views on this topic? How is Farm Evo dealing with the latest challenges of times?
Thank you, Ahmed Saab and Nutshell Forum. Since I came from Karachi, and our VUCA is like 10 times of other part of the Pakistan, yeah. Because almost 50% of our admin time used to be spent on mobile FIR to be launched in different stations to get the insurance back. So our challenge was a little harder than other part of the Pakistan, but thanks to both Sharif that in last 1 year the situation has improved significantly, and now we are living in a better environment. Coming back to the innovation, education and HR strategy, let me share the example that I brought to you, which is Farm Evo, incorporated in 2003 in Pakistan, is a national company. We are now exporting to 11 countries, including Vietnam, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Kenya, Myanmar, and Cambodia. So what was the crux of this humongous expansion of the company from zero in 2003, now is among top 18 companies in Pakistan, 6 billion plus revenue, $6.3 million export to other part of the world. One thing is innovation that we built into our system for our people. So money can motivate up to a certain level, but if you don't give them the challenging environment to work and to explore themselves, they cannot continue the journey. So what is innovation is we have developed an idea generation club in the company from day one, which means everybody has to bring some new idea, which is a discontinuous innovation, meaning Farm Evo had not done it in the past and it was not done in the industry. So every year those brilliant ideas after execution been awarded significantly. We are paying them millions of rupees to actually tell them that you have done a wonderful job for the company. And then you need to tell them why you are doing what you are doing. So we are selling pills. So we are actually making people healthy physically. But that's all. We tell them, no, we are standing for something else. So what is something else? Every pharma company is known in the world that they bribe the doctors, they take them to foreign trips, they give them individual benefits to actually make the deals to get the prescription. What we told our team that we are not making any foreign trips, no sponsorship in local, even in Pakistan, no from Karachi to Lahore or to Islamabad. So then what are we going to do? We're going to build institutions. So for example, in Jinnah Hospital in Lahore or in PIC, we develop their clinical research centers. We have given them all kind of gadgets to provide good quality services to patients. And then we renovated the different wards of the hospital, which cost us millions of rupees. But imagine 330 billion revenue of a pharma company in Pakistan, pharma industry in Pakistan. Out of that, 15% is spent on the advertising and promotion. That is about 50 billion rupees siphoned into foreign trips, personal favors, and all kind of these nonsense things. So we transformed that practices, and we told our team that you are not allowed. This is our policy. No ethical, no social, nothing, but we're not going to go into that debate. But that is not allowed into Farm Evo to practice these kind of activity. So that kind of attachment with the company, that we stand for something else. We stand for making our environment better. So it's not only physical health, it's about environmental health, it's about social health, it's about mental health. So all kinds, so it's a holistic view of health. Now we are around 2,000 employees in Pakistan from zero. We have 500 on our payroll in 11 different countries. Same practices everywhere in the world. Now we are eyeing, tomorrow I'll be traveling to Geneva to have partnership with some European-based companies to actually extend our company to European part. So these two things that we have done in our organization, which makes us really different in managing the VUCA time, especially in Karachi.
No, that's great to know that in that kind of innovation Pakistan mein bhi ho raha hai. Ideas generation jo club hai, something like that Google does, that 20% of employee time should be spent on ideas outside of the work. And a lot of great ideas that we see Google products have come out of those things, which people may see as a write-off time, but it's not. It actually, if you look at do it very well. So I'm very pleased to know that in Pakistan, jahan pe, of course, resources are more limited than the Silicon Valley. आप लोग इस तरह के काम कर रहे हैं, and then kudos to you कि आपने, because I know कि medical profession में the incentivization is very strong at all levels. Without that, you cannot operate or you cannot grow.
People think. Yeah. People think about it.
There's a cost to it, but आपने उसको circumvent करके एक honorable and good system which benefits the patient, benefits the market, and makes the system more transparent. आप इस तरह के काम कर रहे हैं. So all power to you, and that's why I think it's great कि इस तरह की innovation हमारी companies कर रही हैं, and they're providing people, as you said, the purpose. कि our purpose is to provide healthy living in the right honorable way. I think that's fantastic. I think next we move to Ahmed Noman, who is a thinker and a doer. Is one thing that stuck out from you, that you're winner of 3 prizes of national banking essay. So I think एक essay का जीतना मुश्किल होता है, आपने 3 जीते हैं, so naturally you must be having a lot of ideas that you've expressed in those essays. So it would be great to get your views on the innovation, education and HR strategy.
Thank you, Ahmed, and thanks to Asfar, thanks to Nutshell. I think it's a wonderful forum whereby we can share our thoughts and ideas, and nothing is absolutely right or wrong. These are all ideas and discussion. By the way, I happen to be triple gold medalist in my career, double in the banking, and also I've taught at a couple of universities. Besides working with 5 different banks, 5 out of the 7 big banks of the country. Currently, I'm representing Bank Al-Falah, and I'll have a brief discussion about Bank Al-Falah later. But first, I'll have a general discussion because our topic is HR, education, and innovation. Now we have to link or de-link the 3 things together. I think the first important thing is that we should start calling it as human capital investment rather than human resource management. No offense to Asfar and the conference, but it's a human capital investment, HCI, we should start actually calling this thing. Secondly, I think what we need to do is we need to have a very strong linkages between academic world, the academia, and the corporate world, which currently the country is missing. Then the technology part comes in. And a bit of theoretical part, I actually noted that, and we follow it at Bank Al-Falah, we follow the 6I process for innovation. One is the identification, and the second one is the idea creation, identification of the problems and the issues. And then the third one is the investment which is required. The fourth one is implementation. The fifth one is impact analysis. But the top of it is inspirational. So I think innovation, passion and inspiration, they are closely linked together. And if somebody wants to innovate, or some institution, there should be some passion to it. There should be some strong desire to it. The desire to change, the desire to become flexible, and the desire to actually serve the society at large and the country obviously and humanity. The most importantly, when we talk about innovation and HR, we should have very strong frameworks. I have 2 observations from my working and also the philosophy which we actually practice at Bank Al-Falah. One thing is that innovation should not be given to a department. Innovation is a continuous dynamic process which must be there in all the divisions, departments. It's the spirit. And it's not something which, in some of the institutions, with all due respect, they make innovation department or a group and then start thinking that it will be implemented. Innovation is a spirit, is a thinking, is a passion inside the individuals and the organization. Is a part of the DNA, should be part of the DNA of the organization. Second thing is that with this, HR should be the responsibility of every line manager. I represent HR, in the corporate HR, but still I feel that all of my senior regional business heads, the group heads, the general managers, they are actually the human resource managers, and they are responsible for the human capital investment and nurture and development. Here comes the framework. We need to have a strong framework for the development of the human capital through innovative means, through a structured mechanism at the strategic level, i.e. starts from the board level, and from the board it comes to the management, from the management it trickles down to the different levels. But here I'm talking about the framework. I'm not talking about the idea generation or the the other part of it. At Bank Alfala, now coming to the banking industry, at the banking industry we are facing a lot of challenges, especially from the IT companies and from the telecom companies recently. And after the reduction in the interest rates in the country, obviously we are left with very little margins to work with. But we are working now we are trying to cope up with the situation in the digital age. What we have done at Bank Alfala, we have created, or trying to create a, I would say, digital bank for the country. We have a mobile app, and by using Alpha, which is mobile app of the bank, actually you can access everything and anything, and you can do the entire banking through the mobile phone or the cell phone. Then we have on the learning side, I'm proud to share with you that we have introduced gamification, and we are the first bank in the country which has introduced the gamification towards the learning, and especially in areas like regulatory compliance, which is mandatory for the banking industry. We are actually gamifying the different concepts like anti-money laundering and CFT and so on and so forth. And then the e-learning, we have strengthened the e-learning. It's Oracle based, and now what we have introduced, as Mazza Saab also mentioned, we have also introduced the Facebook at Workplace, and we have enhanced the engagement of the employees. In the last 3 years, we have hired over 1,200 graduates from top business schools of the country, including IBA, LUMS, and NUST, and many international universities also. What we have seen that, as Mazza Saab mentioned, I'll second to what he said, that people, especially the young generation, they love to be flexible and they love to be goal-oriented. But at the same time, the challenge for the management is to discipline them, number one. And number two, how to regulate the information flow in the given company. Because some point in time, I mean, from the banking perspective, we do have some kind of hierarchies which we can't break from the regulatory perspective. So from the banking perspective or from the financial sector perspective, we can have an open door policy, but it has to be managed. Similarly, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to introduce the chat rooms. We are trying to introduce even WhatsApp groups. We are trying to introduce even different mobile apps at given timings, whereby the instructor actually is available online. We are the first bank in the country again, which has done a strategic partnership with Australian Institute of Management in Australia, and we are offering the diploma, which is 100% online, and it's an e-learning. So we have enhanced our e-learning approach as well. From the perspective of employee engagement, I think face-to-face discussions or town hall meetings, I think still they will have a room obviously to play in the times to come, even though the digital age says that we need to have a chat rooms and so on and so forth. Frankly, today I met I think 5 or 6 people who told me that they are connected with me on Facebook or some other platforms, and we haven't met earlier. So I think this is the digital age, because here you can actually spread your business, your dimensions to a new levels. But I think the human touch will continue to play a due role in times to come, even though we can debate that how much will be the human role and how it can be reduced. But for the new generation, for the millennials, I think definitely the challenge is to engage them. For the organizations, in my humble opinion, I think in the corporate world, the challenge is to have, the top management usually is aligned with the goals of the company. The middle management is also partially aligned. But I think the line management or the lower management, the first tier, the lower tier, I think they need to be engaged more, and we can leverage the technology and find innovative means to engage them. Very quick word on education, because we have a strategic linkage with now around 17 different platforms, and again we are proud to have an MOU with IBA, and tomorrow we are going to have actually a workshop with IBA in Lahore, which will be the first workshop. IBA Karachi. We also have an MOU with LUMS and NUST and a couple of other universities. Now, education, I think in Pakistan probably is working in isolation, probably, because of the booming population or the young generation we are having. We are having, less than 25 years of age. I think roughly there are 50% or more. I don't know exactly, but that's the number of people we are having. The challenge for the universities will come, I think, after 10 years or so, when actually this age will graduate into sort of middle ages, and they will be requiring a skill set which should be customized or tailored according to the corporate need. Like, for example, without naming one of the best business schools in the country, I discussed with their vice chancellor about having a possibility of an executive MBA in the evening, or an MBA in the evening. Currently, they are offering MBA only in the morning classes, and a lot of our former MTs, they were joining that business school. So I requested him that gone is the age whereby people will take a 2 years leave and then will join a university, will complete a degree. It should be an ongoing learning process. So I think the education will have to also acclimatize and customize. Maybe not now, because now the young generation is quite high in number in the country, but maybe after 10 years, their needs will change. Like we at the banking now at the receiving end, we are forced to change according to the needs of the millennials. We are doing that. But I think education sector also needs an alignment, whether it's a public sector or private sector. Frankly, I don't find much difference as far as these thoughts are concerned. But the good thing about the government, I would just, I would say, appreciating or some party or something, the good thing about the government is they have established incubation centers at different universities, like IBA, LUMS, and NUST. Bank Al-Falah has established an incubation center with IM Sciences at Peshawar. And in KPK, we have started practicing and trying to develop new products and ideas in the financial services. And we have also now a strategic linkage with LUMS. So universities, under the umbrella of the Government of Pakistan and Government of Punjab, they are now fast coming up with incubation center ideas. Recently, IBA Punjab University has also decided to set up an innovation center. So these are just my brief thoughts on this. Thank you again. Thanks to MSF.
So, आपने एक list किया था कि you've met 5 people today, you've connected through social media, but you've met today for the first time. You can add me to that list.
Thank you.
Because we are also connecting social media, but we met today for the first time.
Thank you.
So even at that level, so that's the power of social media. But I think one thing you said very interesting, innovation is not, or even HR is not a person's responsibility, it's not a departmental responsibility. It's in the culture of an organization.
It's a process and DNA and the spirit.
Bilkul. Yeah. So which has to be encapsulated more than in a department. And everything, and mashallah, I think Bank Al-Falah is doing very well under Atif Bajwa and growing very well. I think आपने एक बात सही कही कि academia और industry का connection बहुत कम है. But I think आपकी ये जो request थी ये असफर ने पूरी कर दी, and you're sitting right next to someone who has got a lot of academic experience from FAST University, Associate Professor of FAST, Dr. Sadia Nadeem, who has actually worked abroad for a long time and then come back to Pakistan and working cross-cultural HR, trust and leadership. One thing I found very interesting was that you enjoy working with data set, because one thing I've realized, and one thing common we have, is that I also lived abroad for 18 years. In fact, I lived most of my career, I was abroad, and then I came back to Pakistan about 2 years ago. Over here came, and this is my thing, is that a lot of HR is very emotions driven and very ideologically driven rather than data driven. So Apneja, when you said that you have a lot of data, and not only company level but national level data, it'd be very interesting to see, because what are the facts and what are the emotions of it? Because of course, when we talk about HR, it's about people's lives, people's careers, but it's also about organizational development, organizational growth. So what does hard facts, hard evidence tells us about, you know, human capital investment in Pakistan? So over to you, Dr. Saiba.
Thank you so much, and thank you to Asfa and the Nutshell Forum for inviting me from the alien world of academia. I mean, everybody else here, I would consider that everybody here is an HR expert, particularly an expert of HR within their organization. I am a student of HR who is interested in understanding HR in each and every one of your organizations. So while you talk about your organization and the HR practices in your organization, I am a student who wants to understand HR in all your organizations, and that is the data that I have. Unless I have that information, the data, qualitative, quantitative from all the organizations, I don't have any practical knowledge of HR. Sure. Before I talk about the data and what I'm doing about data, the 3 words that were forwarded to us, the panel discussion topic, we're talking about innovation, education, and HR strategy. And I started thinking of the topic and thought of it at multiple levels. There are 3 very strong words independently and 3 very strong words when you put them together. My overall thought of the topic was, who's my audience? And what do I think about these 3 different words? I have 2 levels of analysis here which I want to briefly share. In my first level of analysis, my audience is CEOs, CHROs, HR executives of organizations. And we are talking about, in a panel discussion, about innovation, education, HR strategy, more to do with what all these learned colleagues of mine were talking about, on how do you create that culture in which innovation can exist, and how do you ensure that the employees come up with creative ideas. And the answer some of these people gave, some speakers in the morning also gave, which was more about my favorite topic of HR, which is a good performance management system as a very strong tool to create a culture in which innovation is rewarded, in which employees actually, the competencies of employees which relate to agility and flexibility and creativity, they are rewarded. Employees are given goals which are not just related to immediate goals which are visible, but to innovative goals as well. So a very strong performance management system, and you can create a culture which supports HR strategy, a culture which supports innovation. You mentioned Google, 3M, innovation, innovative culture. We've talked about that. We've heard of that since 1980s. एक ये level of analysis हो क्या? But I do want to draw everybody's attention to a different level of analysis as well, which relates more to my research. In my second level of analysis, my audience is extremely learned people, intellectually stimulated, action-driven, who want to be agents of change, to think about how innovation, education, HR strategy at a national level. Many of you are thinking of your own organization, which I completely understand, but we need to think of it at a national level as well. We're talking about VUCA, we're talking about uncertain times, we're talking about volatile and complex times. We need to have a workforce, generally speaking, who would have the skills to be flexible, creative, innovative. I'm not saying that you don't think about your own organizations. Absolutely. Give 90%, 95% of the time to your own organizations, but then think of the national strategy as well. You talk about how to all of you as well as others, we're talking about how to have organizational practices which would actually result in individuals who would be able to face the VUCA times. I say, and I am taking a bit of leverage here, but I say that we have a quantitative and a qualitative deficit in the education system. And I'm not talking about higher education here. I'm talking starting from primary education, जहाँ 2.5 करोड़ बच्चों के लिए स्कूल मौजूद नहीं है. That is the quantitative deficit. And then the qualitative deficit, जो जा रहे हैं स्कूल बच्चे, वो क्या पढ़ रहे हैं. The reason that is relevant to innovation and HR strategy and education at the national level is because I go to a lot of organizations. I think I spend a lot of time, people are very kind to me, they allow me to come and talk to people, HR managers, and mix with people. And I was talking about innovation and creativity, and they say, we want people to be open and creative with ideas. But a child who was told from day one that he or she should not put forward his or her own ideas, the parents tell them that. The next step, in a school, he or she went to a school where they were stopped from generating new ideas. They went to a college where creativity, innovation was not encouraged. And this person in the organization was saying, when these graduates, they come to our organizations, we want to actually encourage them to speak up. But creativity, innovation, that comes from the way you've been brought up since childhood. So I am not saying leave your organizations, but what I'm saying is, if I give you a very simple example for what you as an organization can do, social internships. Start giving more value to social internships. You have a very powerful tool. Graduates want to work in your organizations. Social internships, particularly in education sector, graduates bhi jaake creative exercises, some discussions with the primary, secondary school students. I'm not just saying employees. You can do that for employees as well, but you may not want to do that for you don't want just employees to spend too much time there. You can get some social goals to employees as well, but social goals to graduates as well, that you would give a preference to those who have done a social internship. I think that can be a very strong message. Coming to HR strategy, which relates to this, we want to talk about creating a more innovative HR strategy for Pakistan. What data do you have about HR in Pakistan? We don't have any data. The speakers this morning spoke very passionately about how organizations are collecting data on HR. Yes, you can have data on what's internal to your organization, but what do we have external to the organization? I've worked for 13 years in the UK, and I was just talking during lunch with a few people as well that when I moved back here, I was working on a data set, that's the Work Employee Relations Survey in the UK. It's one of the most beautiful data sets of HR in the entire world. They have done 6 waves since 1984. What they do is they collect data on HR practices in organizations. Right now, the recent wave, which was done in 2012, collected data from 4 different sources. They have data from 2,200 organizations, 17,000 plus employees, which are matched with that, the trade union representatives over there in those organizations, and the financial data of those organizations. You put it all together, and you have 2012 data, 2006 data, prior to that as well, and you can see how HR is changing and where do you need to invest at the national level, at organizational level, what kind of talent you are getting, certain HR practices in the country have an impact on organizational performance, employee satisfaction. All that is coming from which age groups? We're talking about the younger generation. You pointed out the 31-year-olds, the 30-year-olds. The younger generation, are they motivated by different factors? We need such data in Pakistan. And I moved back 10 years ago. For the first few years, I was convincing different people to collect that data. Now, about a year ago, I've started collecting that data. So the question is ready if I'm collecting the data. I have data from 130 organizations, and my target is to have at least 400 organizations to produce a basic report through which I can convince the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics that this kind of research is required in Pakistan. So I will take the liberty of requesting that if anybody is willing to, any organization is willing to participate, we will send them a link. Just put your business card over here. And the data confidentiality, I hope you can Google me up. You can trust me that I'll not use the data for any other purposes other than research, and I gain no financial benefit from it. So I would like anybody who's willing to participate, 30 minutes of their time for HR practices, and we start getting some idea about HR practices for designing HR strategies across the country. So just a few thoughts to begin with about the topic.
No, thank you. Definitely a data deficient country, and this is just not HR. I think any area you want to go into in Pakistan, you'll find a dearth of data set. You know, we come from Karachi. Karachi, if you think about do all the policy making, all the data is needed, it's not there. It's very fragmented, it's different organizations. So I think if we can create a national database, I think that would be very helpful. I, for one, in Aman Foundation, we would be more than welcome to share our database. We've got about 1,400 employees, and what we do over there. But I'm sure there, you know, there's the Dhabi group, there's Farmivo, there's
30
PTCL.
minutes of your time. If your business card is here, I would appreciate. I'll personally send an email to you.
I think because we are running.
I would endorse that she is doing a tremendous job, especially because recently, I think around 1 year back, she has done a big exercise for PTCL, and we tried to give her everything, whatever she required,
kind of you, yes.
And the findings and the recommendations, then the analysis, everything was superb, and we are using that, by the way. So I think this is a great cause. I think you are serving HR in a better way as compared to the organizations from the forum of past, I think,
we are all doing a part. I'm an academician, so it is my job to collect data, analyze, produce reports to be used by industry, policymakers. So we're all doing sort of our job.
Very
but
discreetly.
My job.
There is no harm in giving her.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Thank you.
We agree. I think we'd have Mr. Sajid Aslam, head of ACCA Pakistan, give your comments. Before we do that, we'll come back with the closing comments from the panelists. If you can start thinking about what are the challenges, what are the key takeaways, so that we can wrap up the panel. Unfortunately, we do not have that much time for Q&A. From the audience, we'd love to do that, but I think we've run short of time. So we'd close at that. But please, first, Sajid Sabah, if you can give your comments.
Thank you, Ahmed. I think that's a very important forum, and definitely we congratulate Nutshell to continue these efforts which they are doing for a while now. 10, 20 years back, when you go in a factory, and that's something which happened literally in one of our organization I used to work with, you go in a factory और आप उनसे पूछें यहाँ कितने लोग काम करते हैं, तो जनरली जवाब मिलता था आधे. So अब अगर आप जाएं किसी फैक्ट्री और पूछें कि कितने लोग काम करते हैं, कहते हैं पता नहीं, because there are a lot of people who are not present there. It's such a distributed workforce now. Half of the people who are sitting somewhere else, and they are still contributing towards that work. When particularly we talk about, like Sadia mentioned, that she feel alien, you shouldn't. I am from the education background as well. So as a ACCA, where we are sitting somewhere in the middle. We are working with 350, 400 organizations across Pakistan, and we are working 7,000 organizations across the globe in 178 countries. Our role is not the challenge of one organization. Our role is a challenge of across the different organizations, where we are providing, helping them to build the talent. We work with them. We get some input, we change the training modules, we change the exam side of it, the courseware. So it's all in a collaboration with the employer significantly. And then we conduct a lot of research. On every year we produce somewhere like 60, 70 research, and in a very recent research, which is very relevant for here, is the next generation. Generation Next, that's what we call it. And they have identified what we are looking for, what employers are looking for right now, what the world is looking for. And it came out very interestingly, even for a finance professional when we are talking about, and in journal, it's valid for everything. It's very much coming into the vision side of it, the emotional intelligence. There are 7 key quotients which came out as an outcome of the research. Technical and ethical competency is very strong. Whether you are a marketer or a finance professional, your technical and ethics is something which is coming out very strong, which specifically resonate very well with our young generation. We are talking about Generation Y, or we're talking about the Generation Z going forward. Ethics are one of a key area, and the purpose is important. Then the creative quotient, IQ, digital, then we came out with the emotional intelligence, vision. All these elements, they are such a strong requirement of going forward world where you don't know. You don't know the jobs which are going to exist going forward. You don't know right now the type of behaviors which new generation will be demonstrating. We talk about the disruption of the technologies, we talk about the innovation. There's a disruption in the behaviors right now. That's what we are dealing with as a HR. And I think the role of HR, and you rightly mentioned the age within the employment, within the organization, which used to be like a long-term job, it's 2-3 years max. So the key role which is evolving for the HR professionals, and by the way, this profession by itself is a very new, like we talk about accounting, finance, we talk about 500-year history, 100 years history. But when we talk about the HR as a profession, it's not more than 40-50 years. Yeah. And that's where it's evolving. And the role, you rightly mentioned that it's a line management role where you work with the human capital, and we will come back to the valuation impact of the culture and the human the investment on a human capital. I think the new role which is evolving is just like a procurement, making sure you create your right linkages to continuously supply the relevant talent. And what is the relevant talent is basically the involvement of HR professional within the strategy, how the business is going to look like in 5 years' time. Today, in Singapore, today, if you talk about it, there are still a lot of real estate investment going on, but there are no more shoppers. They are all online. So if HR professionals are involved, they can rightly know today for the retail business, it's not the physical infrastructure, it's not the time machines, it's the talent which can create and excite people in a digital world and engage with them better. So number one, HR professional has to have a very significant role at the board meeting. And within the board, they need a certain presence because they are the one who are going to be the key supplier for the raw material or the capital which otherwise is not available. And they have to go and seek and create or form that capital using linkages with the university, linking with the professional accounting bodies, or linking with the other professional organizations who are there to provide that skill or will metrics. So once we talk about it, that's mean the strategy overall, if we talk about, it's a longer term strategy. You have to keep providing because every 3 years you need a new lot, and every 3 years you need people to replace the existing one, gain the same experience, keep them motivating, keep them aligned with the purpose, and that's something which we talk about at the board level, we talk about the CEO level, but as soon as it's come to the very lower level and the guy really want to understand why do we exist, Max really raised the right question. What is the linkage? What is the customer services or a sales, front sales guy? How they can really link with the purpose? Is it very well communicated? Is it very well articulated? Is it the link of that front, the guy who's literally executing something? Is it really a link for them? It's a salary for the person or it's a purpose? And I think the generations which we are dealing with right now and the generation which we are going to deal in the next 5 years, and that's more important now because the HR professional should be preparing for the next generation which is coming up as a workforce. They are very much why driven, not what driven. If they believe in the why, they can deliver whatever you want. They are very excited. They are not team player, but they are individual star. And now, given the work environment, the way it's moving, whether we are talking about the physical manufacturing, if it's moved to a 3D printer, the person sitting at home can create a design and send the printout, which can be produced maybe in China or maybe in Japan or maybe in Pakistan, anywhere. So who we are looking for, that's basically has to be aligned with the business strategy, and that comes down to the knowledge of the innovation happening there, the education system exists there and the linkages with that, and significantly HR strategy need to be aligned with the board very much there. Data definitely provide a lot of information, but still it's require a lot of judgment. I'm a big fan of data, and we as an accountant, that's what we do all the time. But the one learning which I have got is too much data is also sometimes take away your judgmental power. So you have to pick up the 2-3 basic items where you have to work, and you really have to come up where you can generate the maximum impact. Even that information which can come from the one organization or at the national level, I think this information significantly available. We need that will to rely on that with the risk appetite that can go, that may go wrong because we don't have the absolute set, but it's not that we don't know where the problems are, what the challenges are, where the opportunity exists. So my strong recommendation, number one, most of the CEOs are sitting there, HR role has to be embedded within not from an HR committee perspective, from a strategy formation perspective, it has to be embedded within the board, linkages with the education system, and innovation, we have to be very careful and conscious about it. New behavior, new technology, and there's a new generation which is in the formation right now, Generation Z, which is altogether different in terms of what we have discussed, the Generation X, Y, and the Z is coming up with the different behaviors, and it's right there for the new workforce. So we have to prepare for those areas.
So I couldn't agree more with you, Sanjeev Saab, in terms of HR being intrinsically linked with business strategy, more along the company strategy going forward. And I think HR cannot be seen as what you call shared central service.
Yeah, no more.
It has to be very front line in terms of talent acquisition, because it is all about talent and deployment of talent as well. Aapne jo baat ki purpose se link with purpose, very important. I met recently the CEO of a very blue chip Pakistani corporate, former MNC. And he said, yaar, mere paas log aate rehte hain, or young people, and they say, what is your purpose? What is your purpose? I don't know what is my purpose. What is the purpose of my organization? I can't stand it. But the question, but I think organizations, no matter what they're doing, they have to think about the purpose for which they exist. See, Max Saab ne kaha tha, what are we here for? What is the purpose of our life? What is the purpose of human existence? The purpose is no longer about making money or having a great life. It's about more than that. And I think wo jo hai na, organizations have to think through, particularly at the board level, they have to think through, and then it has to come at the XCOM level. So I think that makes for a very interesting and insightful round of discussions and comments. I would just invite my team panelists to give 2 minutes of their closing remarks. What is the key takeaway? Prediction for the future? Anything you want to talk about that honorable members of the audience can take away with them?
We have discussed, I think, various challenges which are faced in this VUCA regime. Nowadays, the concept has changed now. Initially, we were talking of the VUCA. Now we are talking of VUCA Prime. When we talk of volatility, then it comes with the vision. Because when things are changing, there should be a leadership which has the vision to see into future rightly. It has become very difficult in this age, but still the organizations where the management is seeing into future, they are successful. Then we say that this is VUCA volatility, uncertainty. Uncertainty that has now been changed with the understanding. If you stop, see, and then decide, that understanding will create the success in the organization. So that has been changed there. Then the complexity has been changed with the clarity. So if you are clear, you are open, you have the engaged workforce, you can bring a change and go successfully with the change. And then the ambiguity that has been changed with the agility. Because if you have the nimbleness in your system, you can communicate directly with the employees, you can create an atmosphere of closeness and harmony. The organizations can still take the challenges of the future technology changes and can be successful.
Thank you. Nimshed.
Thank you. I think to just the last comment, Pakistani talent is wonderful. I mean, we talk so much about Pakistan and the prevailing situation in the environment, but as soon as I went out of the border and compare our resource to the neighboring countries up to the Vietnam and Philippines, our people are outstanding people, both passionate to work, very honest. We talk a lot of corruption in Pakistan, but when you go to these countries, it's a mind-boggling corruption at the very junior level also. So coming back to nurturing our human resource, our people, this is the leadership job. And then you need to develop a lot of leaders from top to bottom, that everybody taking care of their young junior people to make them big time leader. We all know Steve Jobs, but we don't know about Samsung, who is heading the Samsung, but it's growing like anything. So we don't like stalwart personalities of Steve Jobs that when he or she goes off the scene, the company also making a nosedive. So coming to Pakistan, we need to actually develop that talent, and then we trust them. We should trust them. We should encourage them that they're going to lead the organization, rather than one person driving here and there everywhere in the organization. That everybody should be responsible and should be considered as the CEO of the company in his or her domain to drive the organization to the new level.
Thank you. Ahmed bhai?
I think firstly we should try to create the synergies in the system. Like she has done a wonderful job, and many other organizations, they are into data collection and analysis. So what we need to do is we should create the platforms. We need to have institutions and development of the institutions and frameworks. One quick comment on, because initially you mentioned that HR is more like emotions driven and not data driven. Frankly, I disagree with that statement. I think in our bank, we are down to any level up to numbers, and we are numerically driven. It's very strong numerics in the banking industry and the financial services. Even any return on investment, and it is calculated to the whatever possible level we can imagine. On the other front, I think what we are missing here, probably we did not discuss here, is a CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which has already started having now influence on Pakistan and its future. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, inshallah, we will see a lot of growth in the country, and a lot of growth will be driven by entrepreneurship. Because if you see the Chinese model very closely, it is based on innovation, cost cutting or cost effectiveness, along with the teamwork, and they don't work on the brands. Because a few years ago we did not know the brands of the Chinese, but now they are, the market is flushed with that. So I would say that in the next couple of years, CPEC will actually shape the way our education will work, the corporate sector will work, and lot of, I think the corporate sector will be, I'm very careful in using this word as informal. That people will be entrepreneurs and will be operating from their maybe homes or workplace, will be doing multi-jobs or multi-tasks. And frankly, as the banking institution or the financial sector, we are now trying to have, or I would say eyeing or envisioning people with skill set, or the consultancies or the linkages. Here comes the synergy effect again. So I think it's more of a collaborative effort, and HR should not be seen in isolation. Everybody is HR. So HR innovation, again I repeat, that should be embedded in the culture, in the talent, in the organization, right from the C levels up to the implementation stage. Thank you.
Dr. Saiba.
I think we need to innovate at the organizational level, and we need to innovate at the national level as well. So there's no doubt in that. To innovate, we need to have the right kind of education systems in place. We need to have the right kind of HR strategy, again at the organizational level, at the national level. For that, we need data. There is no way, like gravity does not care. In the same way, if you don't plan, you cannot survive. I think I will end with a few lines from Iqbal. I'm just, sorry, I'm forgetting the lines now. तकदीर के काजी का ये फतवा है अज़ल से, है जुर्म ज़ईफ़ी की सज़ा मर्ग मफ़ाजात. You're weak, you die. It's as simple as that. So we need to, as a nation, as organizations, need to work on these, and we need to develop ourselves as a strong nation.
Sajid sir.
I think I have a major disagreement in the talent side of it. We don't have enough talent, particularly at a CXO and the board level, the senior level. When we talk about among ourselves, we might have a junior talent which is there in the formation. Otherwise, we should have seen a lot of Pakistani organization at a global level. We haven't seen that. So there is a talent challenge we have at a senior level, and there's a significant learning and development interventions which are required. And I think as a HR professionals, we have to recognize where the L&D effort should go first before we can bring the younger talent. Definitely our direction should be there to develop them as well. In a VUCA world, we don't see or predict that. We have to be brave enough to create the future, and that's what we should be seeing in our leadership particularly. This is not the environment we can really predict. Something which existed yesterday may not be relevant today and may not even exist tomorrow. So we have to create our own future. And the most important thing, the valuation of the organizations now particularly is dependent on the capacity to attract and retain talent, because it's now becoming so much innovation quotient is becoming so important that the ideas and skills and the execution capability, which is more driven not through the technology but through the human being who can design it and deliver it. So I think that valuation we will significantly lose in the international market if we are unable to really report the right information on a human capital returns using the integrated reporting or other GRI initiative. That's how we are performing as an organization and how we are performing particularly in the formation of human capital side of it. So talent is one area. I think there is a significant challenge. L&D requirement, intervention from HR professionals is required. We have to create the future, and the valuation of companies not only on their financial assets now, it's basically their capacity to attract and retain the human capital. I think that's becoming more and more important going forward.
So thank you very much. I think what you've pointed out is that we need a national level strategy for human capital investment, human capital development. I think that is very critical. I think we talked about VUCA times may create opportunities, and VUCA could mean vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. We need synergies in the system, and we need evidence-based decision making and policy making. I think that those are the key takeaways from the group of very esteemed members who brought not only their Pakistani experience, and they were quite forthcoming in terms of the challenges. I do agree. I think if Pakistan's talent was that deep and that extensive, we would have many more Pakistani companies who are multinationals, global scale, or we would have many more Pakistani CEOs who are the CEOs of Microsoft or Google and Vodafone, which all have been historically been Indians, if I'm open about it. So I think there's not needs to happen. It cannot all happen at the level of companies. It must happen at the level of the country. And I think national governments have a role to play. And of course, organizations like Nutshell provide a great opportunity for us to think about these things so that all of us can grow, can learn and develop, and can become better at managing or investing in human talent in these uncertain times. Thank you very much once again. I would like to thank my panelists, Sajid Aslam, Dr. Sadia Nadeem, Sayyid Jamshed Ahmed, Ahmed Noman Anis, and Sayyid Mazhar Hussain Saab. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention, and thank you all of you for your attention.
Please don't go away. Please don't go away. We have gifts for you. Please, photographers like that we take a picture from this side. So please come forward and let's get Asfar. May I invite you to please come here as well? Sure. Aage aa jaye. Also, I like to invite Naveed Qazi Saab. I'd like to invite Naveed Qazi, Regional Leader, Asia, Pacific, Japan, and China, GVS and CS Global Service Provider, Cisco. And of course, we'll take the, please join us for the group photograph, and then we'll hand over the gifts that we have here for you. Asha. गिफ्ट ले आए प्लीज मैं आपको देता हूँ आप में हैंड ओवर आगे करते हैं दिस इज फ्रॉम Sensations, is it? Sensations. And we have a name also, Mr. through Mohsin Firoz. तालियां वालियां बजा दे थोड़ी देर पीछे वाले भी बजा दे प्लीज कोई हर्ज नहीं है ठीक है. Thank you very much, and this has been a very fantastic discussion. I must also apologize for standing up sometimes and pushing the time frame mechanism. I'm the custodian of time, and I do make mistakes, so forgive me for that. You've been a fantastic panel and great presentations. Thank you very much indeed.